What if the line between the criminal mind and the paranormal wasn't just blurred, but terrifyingly real? Imagine discovering chilling evidence at a crime scene that defies all logic, all science, and all explanation. These are not ghost stories. These are true events, documented, investigated, and left disturbingly unsolved. One of the most disturbing unsolved cases comes from the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. 9 hikers vanished in the Ural Mountains of Russia under circumstances so bizarre, investigators were left speechless when their bodies were finally recovered. The real footage of their campsite showed ripped tents, scattered gear, and no logical escape. Some of the hikers were found with crushed skulls and broken ribs, yet no external wounds to match the trauma. Others were discovered barefoot in the snow, with radiation detected on their clothing. The chilling detail. The evidence suggested they fled something unseen, something psychological, as if terror itself drove them to their deaths. Decades later, criminal and forensic experts still cannot explain the hidden truth behind their final moments. Military cover-up, avalanche, or something no human investigator could fully grasp. What remains is an unsolved mystery that continues to haunt the psychological core of survival itself. But Dyatlov is not alone in this list of terrifying unsolved cases. Take the infamous Yuba County Five, often called America's Dyatlov Pass. 5 friends vanished in 1978 after attending a basketball game. Their car abandoned on a lonely mountain road. Keys still inside, no evidence of foul play. Months later, 4 of the men were found dead in the woods. One had starved to death inside a ranger's cabin, stocked with food and match-a supplies that could have saved his life. The disturbing contradiction still baffles investigators. Why didn't they use what was right in front of them? Adding to the terror, witnesses reported seeing strange figures near the same area that night. Some described a shining light moving unnaturally across the forest, but in the official record, no criminal explanation or rational one has ever surfaced. Both Dyatlov and Yuba County remain tied by an unsettling thread, evidence that feels more psychological horror than logical crime. Experts say these cases reveal not just fear, but pure panic that forces people to act against every instinct to survive. And yet, the true trigger of that fear remains hidden, unspoken, unsolved. The haunting truth is that every detail is real. Every piece of evidence is documented. And still, investigators were forced to write their final reports with more questions than answers. But what if I told you there's a case even darker, where eyewitnesses described seeing impossible shadows at the scene of a murder? A case where the suspect swore he was not alone, yet every investigator dismissed his words as madness. This next story will make you question not just what happened, but what really exists in the shadows of unsolved crime. In 1981, the Keddie Cabin murders shook a quiet town in California. A mother, her son, and his friend were brutally slain inside their cabin, while the younger children slept untouched in the next room. The violence was so savage, investigators called it one of the most disturbing crime scenes they had ever witnessed. But the case turned even stranger. One of the survivors later recalled seeing shadows moving through the cabin that night, shadows that didn't match the attackers. The statement was buried in the files, dismissed as trauma-induced memory. To this day, the crime remains unsolved. No DNA, no fingerprints, and no clear evidence strong enough to close the case. Some researchers believe fear itself left an imprint in that cabin, something beyond criminal intent. But Keddie is not the only American case tainted by the unexplainable. In 1947, the infamous Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run terrorized Cleveland, Ohio. Victims were found dismembered with surgical precision that baffled investigators and suggested a hidden truth, someone with medical knowledge. But also something far darker. Eliot Ness, the famed lawman who brought down Al Capone, personally took charge of the case. Despite his reputation, he could not solve it. Even with raids, interrogations, and mountains of evidence, the killer seemed to vanish like a phantom. Witnesses at the time reported seeing strange figures lurking in the shadows near the crime scenes. Some even claimed they heard whispers in the dark just before another body was found. The psychological toll on the city was so severe, people believed evil itself had taken human form. The murders abruptly stopped in 1938. No suspect was ever charged. And the butcher's identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American true crime history. But for those who lived through it, the case still feels more like a haunting than a manhunt. Fast forward to 1994, in South Africa, the Hex River murders. A family was found slaughtered inside their rural home, with no forced entry, no robbery, and no motive. Neighbors swore they saw eerie lights hovering over the house the night before. Police logged the reports, but never confirmed them. The only evidence left behind was the sheer brutality of the attack and the unsettling silence surrounding how it was carried out. Even seasoned detectives admitted something about the case felt wrong, as though it was never meant to be solved. And then comes, perhaps, the most chilling twist cases, where killers themselves confess to seeing things they could not explain. Murderers claiming they acted under the control of unseen forces, voices, or shadows. But were these the delusions of a criminal mind, or hints of a hidden truth investigators refused to face? Take David Berkowitz, the infamous son of Sam, during his 1970s killing spree in New York. He claimed a demon-possessed dog commanded him to murder. Investigators dismissed it as insanity, yet the psychological weight of his testimony still unsettles true crime experts today. Even stranger, Berkowitz later suggested he was part of a larger cult. He described rituals, symbols, and a hidden network that law enforcement could never fully verify. To this day, some believe the full truth of the son of Sam killings was buried beneath something far darker. Then there's Herbert Mullen, another serial killer who claimed he murdered to prevent earthquakes. He swore voices in his head demanded blood to keep the earth stable. Though ruled schizophrenic, the chilling detail was this: an earthquake did occur shortly after his final murder. Cases like these force investigators to walk a razor's edge. Are these confessions signs of psychosis or clues to something investigators can't categorize? The psychological terror lies in not knowing where madness ends and hidden truth begins. But it's not only killers who report the unexplainable. Sometimes entire communities are touched by fear that goes beyond logic. One such case is the 1959 Atlas vampire murder in Stockholm. A woman was found brutally slain, her body drained of blood. The crime scene was gruesome, with a bite mark on her neck. Despite exhaustive investigation, no suspect was ever caught, leading to a disturbing nickname that has haunted Sweden for decades. What made the case terrifying was the lack of motive. Nothing was stolen, no signs of struggle, just a chilling silence, as if the victim had been chosen for reasons no human mind could comprehend. The vampire murder joins a long list of cases where the brutality seems ritualistic, almost otherworldly. Police files remain thin, but whispers of cult involvement, occult practices, and psychological terror surround it. And like so many before, it ends with a single word stamped across the file: unsolved. Then there are the disappearances cases, where people simply vanish, leaving behind only confusion and dread. One infamous example, the case of Frederick Valentich, the Australian pilot who disappeared mid-flight in 1978. His last radio transmission described being followed by a strange craft before his signal cut out forever. No wreckage was ever found. No trace of Valentich or his plane has surfaced in more than 4 decades. Investigators labeled it an accident, but the chilling recording of his final words suggest something no accident report can explain. Disappearances like Valentich's are not isolated. Entire groups have been lost under unexplainable circumstances, echoing through history like ghostly warnings. From ships of the Bermuda Triangle to hikers who never return. The evidence is unsettlingly consistent. They vanish, leaving only questions. One case that still terrifies investigators is the Flannan Isles mystery of 1900. 3 lighthouse keepers disappeared without a trace. Meals still set on the table. Clocks stopped mid-tick. Their logbook hinted at powerful storms, but weather reports showed clear skies. The isolation of the Flannan Isles gave rise to chilling theories. Some suggested madness, others a hidden enemy, and some whispered of something beyond human understanding. But like Dyatlov and Yuba County, the final word was silence, written across a file that will never close. Another unexplained case, Elisa Lam, found dead in 2013 at Los Angeles' Cecil Hotel. Security footage showed her in an elevator, behaving erratically, pressing buttons, peering out nervously, as if hiding from someone unseen. Days later, her body was discovered in the hotel's water tank. The disturbing detail: guests had been drinking and bathing in the water for days before her discovery. No conclusive evidence ever proved how she entered the sealed tank, or why she behaved so strangely in those final moments. The Cecil Hotel already had a history drenched in crime, suicides, and serial killers who stayed within its walls. Elisa Lam's case became its most haunting mystery. Modern urban legend rooted in real footage and real tragedy. To this day, her death is officially classified as accidental, but few believe the story ends there. Cases like these pull at something primal in us. They remind us of our deepest fear, that evil isn't always human, and danger isn't always explainable. The criminal mind may be twisted, but sometimes what we fear most is what can't be measured or understood. Each unsolved case leaves behind a scar on history. Evidence without answers, questions without closure, and families who still wait, trapped in the haunting limbo of never knowing the truth. We search for patterns, for psychology, for science to explain the unexplainable. And within those shadows lies a disturbing possibility that some crimes will forever remain beyond human comprehension. So the question remains, are these horrors the work of human hands, or something far darker? The files remain open, the evidence untouched, and the fear very much alive. And perhaps the most chilling truth is this: the next unsolved paranormal crime hasn't happened yet.